Gamers, it is time to talk about Blue Eyes again. Yeah, I know I made a preparation video, but I'm also going to do like a dedicated deck profile. I did make a couple changes and I've been doing pretty good with this list. What Primite does for Blue Eyes, in my opinion, is it makes Blue Eyes a top tier deck. Unironically, I think this is now a top tier deck. The climbing with this deck is super fast, super easy. The fact of the matter is, unless your hand is complete ass or your opponent has a ton of hand traps, it's really hard to contend with this deck. It's good going second because it has space for so many hand traps, and then going first is just crazy how many hand traps can actually play through. And the Primite engine does a lot for the deck. For one, it makes Blue Eyes better, like significantly better at playing into like blowout hand traps. So for example, into Maxi, you can summon the Primite Barrel as your first normal summon. Primite Barrel is going to set Lordy Load. You're going to go for Lordy Load. You're going to search yourself a Drill Beam, and then you can just like summon a Blue Eyes from the deck, make seals. That gives your opponent 2 draws. What you get out of it is like a quick effect bounce. You get an Omni Negate banish on opponent's turn, and of course the rest of your hand, it kind of depends, right? Like a lot of the time when I had to do this, I was able to set up a Majesty of the White Dragon. Other times I would have like an Imperm, a Dominus, and a hand trap. Like there's just so many hand traps in this deck and different things that you can set up on turn 1 for interruption that it's just really good to go for that ultra mid-range playstyle into blowouts like Max C. The exact same board can be set up into Droll also, because the Primite engine only adds a card to hand once. So for example, you can go Lordy Load, add the Barrel, they go Droll, you normal summon Barrel, set the Drill Beam, activate Load, second effect, special Blue Eyes from your deck, make seals, and you get the exact same very strong mid-range setup on top of whatever other interruptions you have access to in that moment. Otherwise, if you're going full combo, I mean, this is really adding a lot to your full combo. There's kind of 2 ways to go about it, right? If you're starting off with Barrel, you might end up wanting to set up like a Hieratic Seal. Like let's say you have a hand of Barrel plus Sage, you might want to set up like Hieratic Seal, a Spirit Dragon, the Blue Eyes Trap, whatever interruption you had access to in hand, be it a Dominus, Purge, an Imperm, and that's really strong. Or you can go full ceiling like you used to, like you were always able to, and just kind of set up a bunch of synchros, set up the Crimson play to go like Crimson into Saphir, so have Saphir plus Ultimate Spirit Dragon plus the Drill Beam. This is also still accessible within the deck if you choose to play full ceiling. I haven't been going for that line as much playing in Master Duel, honestly. I just have been kind of playing it a bit safer, but it is something you have access to. For cards that like are debatable, I think the Rumble, I'm running it right now and I kind of like it, but it's also a little bit awkward. Like it's not necessary. It does enable some lines, especially if you don't see the Primite engine. At least you can still go for the classic, like make Crimson, search this, summon a Blue Eyes, activate Rumble, bring back a tuner, and make another Spirit, summon Ultimate Spirit. You get the Ultimate Spirit plus Saphir on turn 1. Like that line is still available if you don't see the Primite engine on turn 1, so I've been keeping it. But other than that, another change I made from my preparation video last time is I put back Neo Kaiser Seahorse as a 1-of. I think this card is very important. I realized with the Primite engine, I'm often going for a very mid-range playstyle where I just set up like Hieratic Seal and just play like Hieratic Seal, a couple of hand traps, and Drill Beam. And in those scenarios, your Hieratic Seal can actually summon the Kaiser Seahorse from your deck, so that on turn 3 you can get into your actual Blue Eyes plays by sending a Maiden. So on turn 3, you get back your Barrel to your hand. You get to go, I don't know, like True Light, or you can go Load to summon Blue Eyes, bring back the Maiden from the grave, summon a Synchro. Like, this is kind of going to bridge your more mid-range playstyle into your full Blue Eyes package when you're passing like on seals on turn 1. So you're going to be doing that a lot, by the way. At least I was passing on seals a lot, and it was doing good for me. I really like it. At the end of the day, I think the reason this Primite package is so crazy is because Drill Beam is just such a broken card. This card is really hard for your opponents to contend with. This also means that a lot of the time you won't even see it, because your opponent might be using their interruptions to just stop you from getting to Drill Beam. So for example, Primite is really good at forcing out an Imperm or an Ash Blossom, because if your opponent doesn't, they know that they'll have to just deal with Drill Beam, especially if it's Imperm that they have. It sucks because if they keep their Imperm for later, we can just drill beam their Imperm if we have Blue Eyes in hand, Blue Eyes on field, or just a Primite card in hand, right? Last change I'm going to talk about here that I made to the list is I added another Neo Blue Eyes instead of a second Tyrant. I realized that I don't really use 2 Tyrants. What I really want to do is I want to set up my targeting protection on turn 1 with this, and then on turn 3, I want to have both the option of going for an equip the Neo ultimate to go into Tyrant, or I want to be able to also go like Roar Graveyard Effect on turn 3 to fuse into Tyrant. So it's more so like to be able to play through Interruption, I want to have access to both options on turn 3. So I replaced my second Tyrant for a second Neo Blue Eyes. Okay, actually no, one actual last thing. We did not get Lightstorm Dragon, which was that amazing level 9 Light Dragon Synchro that pops back rows. I was really hoping we would get it for this update. I still think the deck is top tier. I think it damn near could have been the best deck in the game if we got that Lightstorm. But so I'm still running the Vermilion Dragon Mech just to be able on turn 3 to go Vermilion, pop a card, and then use a tuner to go into Baron and pop another card. I just really like this going second place, so I'm keeping it. But I will say, you know, Dominus turns off Vermilion's effect. So, I mean, that's really the only card in my deck, I think, that gets turned off by Dominus. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, literally the only card that gets turned off. And, you know, it's not the end of the world. Worst case, you know, you just don't get to pop a card, but you got to use friggin' Dominus Purge, which is a broken card. And also, I'm not running 3 because I ran out of dust. And yeah, I've been kind of okay with just having 2, honestly. Like, I mean, we have so many hand traps. It's not like I'm feeling like, oh my God, I can never stop my opponents when they go first. Like, we have a lot of hand traps in here. That's going to be about it for like the introduction portion of the video. Hopefully it's not too long. We got a couple of replays to show you. I'm just going to show you different situations that I was in, since I already made like a preparation video that shows like some basic lines. And if that doesn't take too long, I might take you to solo mode and show you, you know, like just a main combo line of like, you know, Barrel plus Sage with Eyes of Blue. But either way, let's get into that. All right, so first off here, I've got a replay where I went first against Sky Striker going second. Sky Striker notoriously good at going second, so I figured it'd be a good way to show a lot of the interactions that we get from this deck. And I also started with the Loady Load, which is good because I want to show the engine in action, right? So we start off here with the Lordly Load. We get to add to our hand the Barrel, normal Barrel. Barrel can set the Drill Beam from your deck, so now you have a quick effect, Omni Negate Banish on the field. Super crazy. You do need to either reveal, I want to point this out because I didn't say it, you do need to either reveal a normal monster or a Primite card in your hand, or have a normal monster, well, a Blue Eyes on the field to activate this card. So that can be sometimes a little bit tricky. A lot of the time, I'll just be leaving a Blue Eyes in my deck just so I can summon it from the deck with Hieratic Seal. Otherwise, you know, if you have True Light set up, of course, you can go True Light, bring back Blue Eyes from the grave. That's another good way to do it. But either way, here we go for a Spirit with the Barrel. Spirit, grab the Mausoleum, activate Mausoleum, Mausoleum effect, send a Blue Eyes to the grave. I'm going to activate Maiden of White to set up the True Light. Go for Spirit with Eyes of Blue. Special the Blue Eyes from the graveyard. We get to special out, of course, the Maiden as well. Use Maiden to make another Spirit with Eyes of Blue. And then I'm going to use these two to make a seal. So yeah, as you can see here, I'm not going for the same lines I was going for before. Now I'm just kind of like, okay, I kind of want to just be somewhat safe from the Nibiru, you know, like worst case scenario, if they went Nib, I could set up the Blue Eyes trap, I'd have Imperm, you know, I'd have a quick effect Omni Negate Banish, and potentially something else I could set up on the field since I still have my second normal summon. So because of that, I decided, you know, let's try a bit more mid-rangey here. Let's try something that doesn't completely play around Nib, but at least does a little bit, you know? So either way, let's go for True Light here. We're going to set up our Wishes, activate Wishes, discarding the Foolos, and we can add to our hand the Majesty with Eyes of Blue, and a Sage with Eyes of Blue. I meant Majesty of the White Dragon. Anyway, summon out the Sage here, Sage, Search, and Effect Veiler, of course, and then we can go for our Roar, special Blue Eyes back from the grave. As you can see here, I'm intentionally keeping a Blue Eyes in my main deck just in case that they were to like Ghost Spell, True Light, or something of that nature, that I could still at least summon one off of Hieratic Seal from my deck on opponent's turn. So use these two here. We can go into Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, go into a Crimson Dragon. Oh yeah, this is kind of an interesting setup. So Crimson Dragon can grab the Synchro Rumble. Then I can go Synchro Rumble, bring back a level 1 tuner from my grave, activate Lordly Load. So actually I am kind of going full ceiling here since I felt like they didn't have Nib anymore. So we can go Lordly Load, special Blue Eyes. Now keep in mind, This is kind of risky. This actually it's very risky. So when you use the Lordly Load second effect, for the rest of the turn, essentially all your special summon monsters on the field become normal monsters. Like they can't activate effects on the field. They don't become normal monsters. If they have non-activated effects like being able to attack multiple times, they get to keep that. But they can't activate effects on the field. If they went Nib, I'd still get the Graveyard effect of Seal. But effectively, once I use the second effect of Lordly Load here, I just don't get to, like for example, I can't activate the Blue Eye Spirit Dragon effect to summon my level 12. I can't activate Crimson to go into Saphir. So this setup is going to get me the Saphir and the Omni Negate, but it's going to do it on opponent's turn if I get to resolve both of these. It's a higher risk play, but it gets about the same ceiling. Plus, of course, the Primite Drill Beam being like a crazy Omni Negate quick effect banish of any card, and I have Veiler plus Imperm plus the trap here to pop. Like the amount of interruption we're getting here is actually insane, right? So we said these two. Oh yeah, I have to point this out. The reason this line works, by the way, normally Crimson Dragon would be destroyed in end phase by the effect of Spirit, but that's why you have to use Rumble, because then Rumble in the grave actually protects your Crimson Dragon from being destroyed in end phase. So that way you get to actually set this up. This is basically your full ceiling board, if you will. I started off mid-range and I was like, never mind, we're going all in. And here we find out we're playing against Sky Striker. I'm going to go for my Blue Eye Spirit Dragon, trying to land that Omni Negate as soon as possible. They go for Widow Anchor, negating my Crimson Dragon. I'm like, you know, it is what it is. I'll still have an Omni Negate on the field. It's not the worst thing in the world, you know? So here we go. We get our Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit. We're going to activate True Light here to get Blue Eyes White Dragon out of the graveyard, just so we can still Drill Beam, you know? Oh yeah, by the way, the reason I went for Ultimate Spirit Dragon here is because they were trying to Shark Cannon my Blue Eyes so that I could not use my Drill Beam by just bringing back Blue Eyes from the grave with True Light. So by summoning the Ultimate Spirit Dragon, they were no longer able to banish from my grave, which meant that my True Light got to resolve and I got to bring back my Blue Eyes. Pretty important thing there. So anyway, opponent goes for Triple Tactics Thrust. I'm going to negate the Thrust here because I have another Omni Negate. I feel pretty safe. They're going for the Linkage. Here, I'm like, that's fine. Linkage, not really a big deal, you know. They summon whatever this Link 2, I don't even know what it does. I think it pops cards if it attacks or something. I don't even know. Anyway, tribute, you know, my Hieratic Seal, bounce that, summon the second Blue Eyes from the deck. Now my Majesty can pop 2 cards. They're going to go for Pot of Desires, banishing 10. We go for Drill Beam, negate the Pot of Desires and banish it. So now they're on 1 card into Imperm and a double pop and a Veiler. I felt pretty damn safe here. But damn, that last card was pretty good. We did still have follow-up though. We had a lot of follow-up. So before this game ends, I'm just going to tell you, yeah, they got rid of True Light, which obviously is really good for them, right? Like, oh my god, we got rid of True Light, we wiped the whole board. But if this card is destroyed, I can special summon a dragon, light dragon from my grave, right? So we could like just bring back our Spirit, for example. Or even, well, yeah, that's basically what we would be bringing back. And then on my own turn, Barrel would come back to my hand, because if you have a normal monster on the field or in the grave, Barrel comes back to your hand in the standby. So we get to summon Barrel. We get, because Primite monster is on the field, we get to set the Drill Beam from the graveyard. It does not banish itself. Every turn, you get to set Drill Beam and add back the Barrel, which is super broken. Then we get to grab another Load. Load could summon a Blue Eyes from the grave. Like, we would get a lot of follow-up. So once you get into a top decking situation in the grind game like this against my deck, it's like you're dead. You're dead, because we get so much grind game from the new Primite cards. So really awesome stuff. So anyway, you know, this here Spirit activates and they just scoop it up. But I just wanted to point out, like, that was not game over for me. And it's really cool that I had such good interruption that they had to wait until their very last card to even be able to attempt to go for Harpy's Feather Duster. And, you know, so Drill Beam, it's a very high impact card. You definitely want to keep it for, you know, the biggest playmaker that your opponent might have. But yeah, that went pretty well. I think that's a good replay. All right, this next replay here is against Val Monica, and the hand is pretty awkward. It's a good example of like an awkward hand basically for this deck, where you're kind of forced to play very mid-range. So as you can see here, we have the Rumble, which is like a scenario where it's like, oh man, I wish I wasn't running this card, because obviously here it's really bad. Barrel is not a tuner, right? So we don't have access to any tuners right now. We don't have access to Blue Eyes Engine for the most part. We have Majesty, Imperm, and we have access to our Drill Beam, which which is obviously an Omni Negate Banish. So we are going to play with limited interruption here. We're going to do the mid-range Primite line and just see what we can do off of that mid-range setup, and will it get us to turn 3 where, you know, we can start really accruing advantage. So here I go for the Lordly Load, go into the Spirit with Eyes of Blue, then I activate Spirit with Eyes of Blue to add the Mausoleum. I was really just doing this to deck thin at this point because I'm like, okay, I really want to draw into good cards on the follow-up turns, so let's remove cards that I don't want to draw from the deck as much as possible here. So I can go Lordly Load, special Blue Eyes from the deck. Drill Beam works if you reveal a normal in your hand, right? So keeping Blue Eyes in hand here is really good because that means that I don't have to summon Blue Eyes from the deck with my Hieratic Seal, and instead I could summon like a Neo Kaiser Seahorse, for example, and just actually get into my Blue Eyes plays on turn 3. So, you know, we use these two. We go into a Hieratic Seal, and again, I really like this line. Like, it's 2 draws into Max C. Well, in this specific case, I guess it would be 3 draws because I summoned a Spirit, but you don't have to summon Spirit here. It's 2 draws into Max C. The entire line works into Droll, and it's safe from Nib, right? Like, it's 3 summons. So I really like this line as like a very mid-rangey line that's just safe from so many things. And then obviously we set 3 here, so we have the Drill Beam as a quick effect banish, we have a Pop 2 with Majesty, and we have Infinite Impermanence. Their first play is to go Called By on my Blue Eyes White Dragon, and that's because they wanted to evenly match my board, but we have Drill Beam, so we can reveal Blue Eyes in hand, negate evenly matched, and banish it. Feels good to banish evenly matched for once, instead of evenly matched banishing my board. And then, you know, they go for their Cellatrix Valmonica. I'm just going to negate Valmonica here so that they don't get the search. Just trying to get them on really low hand economy. So I'm going to bounce the Valmonica because I want to summon my Neo Kaiser and I don't want them to get into their Link 1, but they're going to call by my Hieratic Seal. Here they go for Versare. Of course, they don't get to choose which effect right now, so I just chose for them to pay 500 and dump a card, which is really not advantageous for them. And then their last card in hand was Demono Valmonica, so they're discarding the Cellatrix and they're going to set up their 2 scales, and we have a pop, right? So I'm actually waiting for them here. I'm letting them summon the Cellatrix because I'm just going to pop Cellatrix instead, just to clean it up and put them on basically nothing. And at this point, we can just use our grind game from the Primite engine to do a lot here, right? So, okay, just want to point out, Barrel did not come back in standby because my Blue Eyes was no longer in the grave. It was banished. So for this turn, I have to play extremely mid-range. I had to basically just summon Blue Eyes and pass turn. So it's going to be on the follow-up turns. So right now, we're basically just playing Imperm into 1 card. These are not real cards, really, like at the right now. So, yeah, pretty risky at this point. But still, you know, it is what it is. That's the situation we're in. We're okay. So we control a normal monster. We can add back the Barrel. Then we can summon the Primite Dragon, set up another copy of Lordly Load, go for Drill Beam, set it from the graveyard, activate Lordly Load, and they're just going to go Ash Blossom on Lordly Load. At this point, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm just going to keep my normal monster on the field. I think just Drill Beam alone is good enough, right? So I switch, and we just go to battle, swing, and just pass turn. I mean, like, you know, if they can't play next turn into Imperm plus Drill Beam, they just lose. So as you can see, even though it doesn't look like much, there's like very mid-rangey, very like, you know, a smaller scale play style actually works really well into a lot of scenarios. Like, we did play into a good amount of gas with that stuff and still were able to just destroy our opponent pretty much. Of course, they had a chance on that turn where I just had Imperm and Blue Eyes, but I guess they just you know, they had to draw better. All right, so this one here, we've got a bit of a mirror match and we're going first. So I activate the Lordly Load. They're going to go for Ash Blossom on the Lordly Load. That's fine because we had Barrel. They're going to Imperm the Barrel. So now we're going to go into our Link 1, Spirit with Eyes of Blue, just to grab the Mausoleum, deck thin like I did earlier. Go for this, summon the Hieratic Seal. I know, recurring theme for this video. I'm being serious, man. A lot of my games are just this, and it's good. It's really good. You know, here I don't even have Drill Beam because I didn't get to set it up, but we played through 2 hand traps. Our opponent's playing on 4 cards. We have 4 interruptions. It's not bad at all. It's really not. So our opponent's going to go for a Sage with Eyes of Blue here. I'm going to go for Imperm just to get a trap in my grave. Then they're going to go for Spirit with Eyes of Blue. I'm just going to Dominus Purge, negate, and destroy. So now, they had the Maiden, which, you know, that's pretty good, but we got a removal for that. We're fine. They're going to go for True Light. Activate True Light. I'm going to go for my Hieratic Seal, bounce it, and there we go. Like, that's it. we cleared it. It's that simple, man. So seriously, dude, don't discount those like unimpressive boards. I get it. It doesn't look fancy or anything, but man, it does the job. All right, and I'm going to show you one last grind game, especially because this also shows Primite being used in plants. And I figured, hey, it's like a double Primite showcase, so might as well show it. So we're going second against plants here. We have Nibiru and Fuelos. Of course, Fuelos going to be really good into plants if they don't have the out, and that is exactly what happens here. So, they're going to grab here, discard. We're going to just go Fua when they go for Evil Seed. They discard their Drill Beam because they thought they'd be able to maybe set it later, I'm guessing. But yeah, they just decided not to play into Fua and to just pass turn. Our hand is pretty good. We're going to go for Lordy Load, grab an Ether Barrel. They're actually going to go for Droll, but that's fine. This also shows you how good we are into Droll, because this engine works really well into Droll. We can go for Drill Beam to, we can set Drill Beam with the barrel even into Droll, and we can use the load like we did earlier to just summon Blue Eyes from the deck, and we're good to go. So here we go. Main phase 2, Lordy Load, summon Blue Eyes, use these two, make a Hieratic Seal. Of course, I have a Blue Eyes in hand that I can just reveal to activate my Drill Beam. I'll be able to set it every turn as long as I have a Blue Eyes in the grave to get back my Ether on the field every turn. So, like, in a grind game situation like this engine is super insane. So, here we go. Passing, again, True Light, activate, bring back Blue Eyes. I just figured I would do this just in case. Obviously, I didn't need to because I had Blue Eyes in hand to reveal, but I just figured I'd do it anyway. They're going to go for Ragnarika Bloom. I'm actually going to chain my Hieratic Seal, but they have Called By for Hieratic Seal. So I'm going to go for Drill Beam on the Ragnarika Bloom here. Kind of a misplay I realized after. I could have just Drill Beamed the Called By instead, but whatever. It is what it is. We banished the Bloom at least. It's gone now, so that's kind of good, putting them on low resource. And their hand was crazy. They had Rika Konkon and Mudon, bro. This is unfair. Thankfully, my opponent got really greedy because I turned my chaining off to make sure they don't notice that I have Nibiru. They got their Rika Princess, which in theory, as long as they control a Rika monster, I would not be able to use my Nibiru because Rika Princess could negate it in the grave while they control a Rika. But so I was just turning my chaining off. I was like, please just go for stealing, bro. Please just play your combo, bro. Please, bro. Just, you want to combo off. You do. And of course, they link away their Rika monster. So we're just going to go straight for Nibiru here. To be fair, their trap is still going to be able to tribute my monster for cost because of Rika Konkon. So it's definitely a really scary situation still. I have to figure out a way to play into this trap card. So I'm going to summon out the barrel, add it back to hand in the standby because we control a normal monster, summon barrel. And they don't use their trap. So I got to set my Drill Beam. They should have just shotgunned this card, honestly, but it's fine. We get to special out the Blue Eyes from my hand here. I'm going to make a Hieratic Seal while still controlling a Blue Eyes on the field. I'm going to activate Lordy Load here just to add another barrel to my hand and deck thin even further. Go for Wishes, discard the barrel I just added to grab a Majesty to double pop and an Effect Veiler to negate. And I just feel like I'm in a good position here. I'm just trying to set up as much interruption as possible since I know they're going to use this trap and they're going to get to do a lot with it. So, I go to swing with Nibiru. They're going to tribute my Tyrant, take control of my Hieratic Seal until the end phase. I'm going to set my Majesty. They're going to get to bring back their Petal, which I'm like, that's fine, So here, obviously, we can't use Hieratic Seal anymore because it's not in the extra monster zone. I'm going to bring back my Blue Eyes from the grave to make sure that my Drill Beam is usable. I'm going to go for Majesty, Shotgun here, get rid of Petal and Konkon so they just don't have Rika names anymore. They're going to go for Ragnarika Bloom. I'm going to Drill Beam the Ragnarika Bloom. I feel pretty safe with just Veiler and Ash to deal with whatever else they might have. I feel like this is like pretty good to have into a single card, They don't really have follow-up in the grave. They go for Primite Lordly Load. I should have ashed the Lordly Load, but I kind of just quickly clicked right-click, but it's fine. We just ash the Primite Roar instead, and yeah, that's about it. I mean, that will close it out, right? So cool replay, I think. Pretty good. Again, pretty good showcase. Almost every replay I showed in this video was a more mid-rangey play style because honestly, that's just been what's worked the best for me. Like, people are running a lot of hand traps in Master Duel right now, and I think the ability to play into really strong blowout hand traps and also play through smaller interruption hand traps and set up a board that will have like 3 to 4 interruptions, but your opponent already used 2 to 3 hand traps and they're on 3 to 4 cards anyway. I think that's like a really good way to tackle this format. So I really think this deck is top tier now. I think it's crazy, and I think it's a lot of fun to play compared to like a super long-winded combo deck like Snake Eyes Fiends Blacksmith. This is so much more refreshing to me. Like, a lot of my turns are very quick. A lot of my games that I won, you know, my first summon, my opponent didn't have what they needed and they just scooped, so I wasn't able to get that many replays of like full ceiling. At least that first video, that first replay I showed you had like pretty much the full ceiling you'll get with this deck. So I don't really even feel really like I need to take you to solo mode. I think this deck is pretty self-explanatory. It's not a super complicated deck in terms of playstyle. A lot of the thinking just comes from how you're going to maneuver interruptions going second, and also how you're going to maneuver hand traps, how you're going to play in a way that's relatively safe to get you at least an amount of interruptions that you're happy with. So like that's going to be just more so from practicing the deck. So I think we can go straight to the card by card. All right, so closing thoughts on the deck. I'm sure this video was probably a bit confusing because a lot of the boards look worse than your average like Blue Eyes board did prior to Primite. But the deck feels a lot better, and it's a lot stronger, I would say, because of the like lower ceiling in a way. So yeah, I really think this support is crazy, and that it has made Blue Eyes now a top tier contender within the game, at minimum top 5 decks in the game, in my opinion. And you'll see that reflected in ladder. This deck is going to be everywhere. Now, as you can see, it's extremely expensive, right? The Primite engine is 6 added URs on top of a deck that was already filled with URs. But, you know, anime tax is anime tax, right? At least the anime deck is good this time. So here we go. 2 copies of Blue Eyes, 3 copies of Veiler, triple Sage, your second / best normal summon, 3 copies of Maiden, 2 Max C, 1 copy of Ghost Ogre. Cool tip with Ghost Ogre that didn't come up in this video. Sometimes you can actually discard Ghost Ogre and bring it back later from the grave with Synchro Rumble. And Ghost Ogre actually works on the field as well as in the hand. So if you can do that, then you can actually turn Ghost Ogre into an interruption just by summoning it from the grave with Synchro Rumble on turn 1. So that's kind of nice. 3 copies of Ash, 2 copies of Fuelos, 1 Neo Kaiser Seahorse, like I said, to just bridge the Primite engine and your more mid-range playstyle into a full Blue Eyes board on turn 3 by, you know, summoning it with the Hieratic Seal. And then once it leaves the field, you can send the Maiden, bring back Blue Eyes, summon Maiden from the grave, make your Synchros, etc., etc. We have 3 copies of Barrel, of course, 2 copies of Nibiru, 1 copy of Synchro Rumble, triple Wishes, 1 Roar, 1 Mausoleum of White, triple Lordly Load, 2 copies of Called By, 1 Cross Out, the Drill Beam. Cool thing about Drill Beam that I didn't get a replay of, this card can negate certain hand traps. You can negate the Dominus cards, and you can negate Infinite Impermanence on turn 1 if you have either a Blue Eyes in hand or a Primite card in hand while you're holding the Drill Beam. It's pretty cool. Hasn't come up for me yet, but I did want to point that out because I didn't get to show it. 3 copies of Imperm, 2 copies of Dominus Purge. I don't have a third one, didn't have the Dust, and it hasn't felt too bad, like I said earlier. 1 copy of Majesty and 1 copy of True Light. In the extra deck, I'm running 1 Tyrant and 2 Neo now to make it to like get my targeting protection on turn 1, and then on turn 3 to be able to still equip 1 and go into Tyrant. And then, you know, if they interrupt that, then at least I can also use the graveyard effect of Roar. It just makes it, I feel, easier to push to summon a Tyrant and just clear the field on turn 3. Still running the Moonlight Dragon as like a generic removal card. I really can't remember the last time I summoned this card, so this one along with like the second Neo would be the 2 flex spots for me, I would say. Like, I definitely would like to run 3 Blue Eye Spirit, and I think the deck would be better with 3 Spirit, but I don't really like have the Dust right now, and it hasn't felt bad to only have 2, but yeah, I would like to have a third one. Vermilion Dragon Mech I really like on turn 3 as well, just to go into Vermilion and then pop a card, go into Baron with another tuner and pop another card. It just feels like a really nice line going not going third, but going second or on turn 3. Then we obviously have the Saphir, the Crimson, the Ultimate, 2 copies of the Link 1 and 2 copies of Hieratic Seal. Overall, I feel like this deck is insane, and I think the list is great. For changes to make, well, obviously if we had Lightstorm, I would replace the Vermilion Dragon mech with the Lightstorm Dragon once that comes out. So if you're watching this video later, just check if Lightstorm Dragon is in the game now. Dispatter is a very real option for this deck. And, you know, unlike Baron, even after you get Dragon Locked by Roar, you can still summon Dispatter. So if there's anything you don't want to play in here, or a UR you're missing and you have Dispatter, this is like a super solid option for the deck. I'm not a huge believer in Dispatter, but I do think like in the grind game, being able to shuffle back your own banished cards can definitely come up and could be very useful. So I'm definitely considering it, especially since I almost never summon Moonlight. I might throw it in instead. I feel kind of safe having Moonlight, whereas Dispatter feels like Like, it wouldn't come up super often, but it is a pretty solid card. So that's about it for this video. Hopefully it's not too long. Once I edit, I guess I'll find out. And I hope it was a lot of help to you. Thank you for checking it out. And yeah, see ya.